Hello, I'm Mr. Orange and this is video hashtag 699. In this video, I'm reviewing 16 season 1 episode 21. It's called The Birthday Boy. Okay, good title, it tells you what it is, but I have a bone to pick with this episode. Granted, I think this episode is really fun and it's one of the greater episodes of 16. But conceptually, this episode should not exist. Even with this title alone, this should not exist. Basically, this is a Wyatt-centric episode, and in this episode is Wyatt's birthday. And I have so many reasons why I think conceptually this episode doesn't work. This is a birthday episode, and it's a birthday episode for one of the 6 members. And I think it just doesn't work when the main character. So the title of the show is 16, right? And the cast of the group are meant to be 16-year-olds. That's the play on the words. That's the pun of the group. Also, there are 6 characters that also plays into the pun. That is something unique about 16. You have 6 characters who are 16-year-old, and the title of the show is called 16. And you might tell me like this is an episodic show, continuity shouldn't matter, and I disagree. I think this show follows a continuity in its plot. Like this episode alone, we get a moment with Jonesy and Nikki, which is obviously a continuation of the relationship. So obviously for this show, continuity does matter. Also, I find this episode like really interesting. Just how it's placed, like this is the 21st episode right now. We have had Christmas episode before, we had the Valentine's Day, I think it was episode 14 or 15 is where we had a Valentine's Day. And, Valentine's Day happens on February. And I think we have had, like, confirmation of, like, at least 2 of our characters with possible birthdays. Like, I think we have been confirmed that, like, Nikki is a Pisces and Jonesy is a Taurus. So, like, Nikki's birthday would at least be in, like, between February and March. And Jonesy's birthday should at least be between, like, April and May. And this event of, like, Wyatt's birthday should at least be after February. Like, if they cared about continuity. This would mean that Wyatt has been 15-year-old at this point. Honestly, the only way I can think a birthday episode might work for this show is if this birthday was, for a different character that isn't the main character. So that's my 2 cents about this episode. But anyway, let's get into this review. Okay, the episode starts off with, Caitlin and Jan, congratulating Wyatt for his birthday and, celebrating it. I think it's really cute of them doing that. Anyway, we learned that Wyatt's kind of disappointed because he doesn't like birthdays. Because every year his parents give him a themed birthday, which does seem kind of fun. But thing is, his parent gets crazy with this. I mean, Wyatt is now 16. I think he should have the decider of what theme he should have for his birthday. Also, I think this is the first time we ever get to hear about Wyatt's family. We learned that Wyatt has a big family. Thing is, we never see them in the show at all. So what does he mean by big family? Does he have siblings? Does he have relatives? I do think it's a shame that 3 out of the 6 characters' families don't get to be shown. Knowing the future, we at least know that Jan, Jonesy, and Nikki all have family members shown to us. We never get to see like Wyatt or Caitlin. I think we get to see Drew's cousin at some point. But Wyatt and Kaylin get nothing in terms of the families. I mean, we did learn at some point, like, Kaylin is from a rich family, and, like, her dad, took away, her credit card. And I think Jan kind of mentioned, like, Kaylin's parent is a doctor or something. Anyway, Wyatt and Jan give examples of the theme towards Caitlin because obviously Caitlin doesn't know about this. Remember, she is new to the group, which I do like. You see here, this is why continuity matters. They've acknowledged that Caitlin's new to the group. Anyway, I'm not here to talk about that now. We're here to talk about the themes that Wyatt and Jan brought up. So 2 years ago, for Wyatt's birthday, the theme was diseases that we're glad we don't have. And I can understand that theme sounds like really bad and atrocious. Like, could you imagine your birthday is about diseases? And what do you mean, like, diseases that we're glad we don't have? So they're in Canada. So, like imagine, like, the diseases they're glad they don't have is possibly like diseases from other countries, like possibly Ebola. And this is kind of morbid for Wyatt to have for his birthday. And he mentions that this birthday was like 2 years ago, so that means he would have been 14 years old for that birthday. I mean, great way to celebrate your 14th birthday by talking about diseases. But then they mentioned the theme for last year, which I don't mind. The theme was like everything is brown, so I don't really have problem with that. I think that theme sounds really fun. Like whether it's clothes, the presents, the food, everything was brown, and I think that's kind of a fun theme for me. So that means like he was 15 years old for that. And then Wyatt mentions the theme for this year's, and according to him, is trailer park themed. And then he kind of whips out a hat with, some soda cans next to it, which I think was pretty cool. When I saw this as a kid, I really wanted one because that's really cool how it looks. I don't see what the problem is with this theme. Like, I have no idea what trailer park is. But when Wyatt put that hat on, I was like, that looks so cool. Like, could you imagine having a hat where you can drink soda cans out of it? And it's like pink colored. So, like, when I was little, I thought it was like a milkshake kind of flavor. Even though Wyatt is reluctant about this, Jan plans to, give Wyatt a decent birthday party. Anyway, G puts on Wyatt's hat. Honestly, same, I would've. And then G gives us a confirmation about the flavor of the drink. And the flavor is cream soda. I think this is very interesting. I think cream soda is probably like a Canadian/American drink. While cream soda isn't heavily popular in UK, we do have a brand that has cream soda. That brand is called Bar. They have their own soft drinks like cream soda, like Iron Brew. They have all of those things. I think it's a Scottish company. I've had cream soda before. I think it's fine. It tastes like vanilla. Honestly, from my standpoint, it kind of reminds me of like lemonade, but swap lemon for vanilla. It's fine, but kind of bland as well. I'm not too crazy about cream soda. Anyway, Jan has a two-way call with Nikki and Jonesy. She tells Nikki to buy a gift for Wyatt, and she tells Jonesy that he needs to get some food. Anyway, while she's talking to Jonesy, we find out Jonesy's next job. He works at a fruit world dressed as a banana. I imagine they sell fruits of all kind. However, he gets fired immediately because he was talking on the phone and it's against the policy. So that was a short-lived job. While Jen says them getting those things, she plans to get card for Wyatt. I mean, you gotta give it to Jen for organizing this thing. This really proves that she's like a dependable friend. And then Jen says Drew to get the birthday cake. And then Kaylin has the idea of having Wyatt's face airbrushed on it. I mean, I don't know. Would you want a birthday cake with your face on it? Anyway, at Khaki Barn, Jonesy comes over to Nikki's area and he wants Nikki's help to study for the geography exam. Nikki is reluctant to help Jonesy out, but Nikki places a deal. If Jonesy wants Nikki's help, he just has to say that Nikki is smarter than him, which seems like the easiest task ever. And since Jonesy's ego is so big, he's just incapable of uttering those words. I mean, it's not that hard, man. Just say that Nikki is smarter than you. Also, this would make sense because, Jonesy is the one that who needs help with his geography and he's getting the help from Nikki. So obviously he would think that, oh, Nikki is smarter than him. So I don't get the issue here. And eventually, Jonesy caves in and just blurts out that Nikki is smarter than him. Now, was that so hard to do? Anyway, back in the lemon, Jude is busy playing a game. And the game is called See Me Mall. And I think this is really interesting. This game is basically The Sims, which I think is a really cool reference. While I never played the game itself, I have watched a lot of YouTubers play this game. And it's really fun to see them play this game. And since this episode came out on 2005, this game either references the first Sims game or second Sims game, which is Sims 2. But my bet is on Sims 1. The Sims 1 came on 2000 and then Sims 2 came in 2004. And since this episode came in 2005, I think it would have been too early. Overall, season 1 did base in like 2004, which came before the time Sims 2 came out. So it's possible that the writers haven't really thought about The Sims 2 yet. Again, it's really fascinating that they included this. And right now it's really fascinating because 16 is around 2004 and this show only had 4 seasons and I think it stopped at 2010, I think. But right now, when it comes to the Sims franchise, we're now in Sims 4 and that came out 2014, I think. And at this moment, we're waiting for Project Renee to come out. It will be really fascinating to see what would happen if 16 was returned and they thought about how Sims is right now. And I also think it's really fascinating that 16 referenced this game that became so popular these days now. Thing is, Jude shows it to Jan, and she immediately gets sucked into it with Jude. I understand the feeling. I've never played The Sims before, but I can understand watching people play it makes you want to play it too. You'd think it would be mundane to, play a game that replicates real life, but it's actually kind of fun. However, this causes Jan and Jude being distracted by this game. This kind of neglects the responsibility of getting the things for Wyatt. Remember, Jen is supposed to get the cards, and Jude was supposed to get the birthday cake. Anyway, back in Khaki Barn in the changing room, Nikki helps Josie study for geography. And it looks like Jen and Jude aren't the only ones who are distracted. Nikki and Josie are supposed to get their things for Wyatt. Nikki is supposed to get a gift and Josie is supposed to get some food. Anyway, while they study, Jonesy makes a deal. If he gets a question correct, he has to ask Nikki a question. And he asks a serious question though. Why hasn't he and Nikki haven't dated yet? I think as a viewer, this is an important question. And you know it would have come up at a sooner point. And I do think this is really interesting. I think Nikki and Jodie's relationship is alright. It's not the best relationship ever, but it's okay. There are moments I find like the relationship is kind of weird, but it's also okay, wholesome at some areas. I think the last time we ever get a mention about like Nikki and Josie's relationship together was the Valentine's Day episode. And we're currently in episode 21. And I think the Valentine's Day episode was like 14 or 15. So it's been like five or six episodes apart. And again, this is another reason why I think that continuity matters. Because, the whole show, like, the biggest, plot they have in the show is Nikki and Josie's relationship. It's kind of the one of the main plots of 16. But thing is, as Josie, asks Nikki these questions, she's reluctant to answer. Anyway, Kayla walks into the lemon, seeing that Jen and Jude are already sucked into the Simu Mall game. She tells them that they got things to do, but until she notices like her version of her character wearing a Hina sweater, she immediately gets sucked into the game as well. And soon, all five of the characters are distracted of getting things from Wyatt. Back with Nikki and Josie, and now they're near the fountain. Nikki was able to get Josie memorizing all the capitals of Europe. But as soon as they finish with that, they realize like time has passed and it's 6 already, and they're supposed to be getting White's things. So oh no to them, like this is very late for them. That means at this point the stores will be closing. They need to hurry and get the gifts and snacks. Anyway, back at the lemon, Jen, Caitlin, and Jude are still sucked into Simu Mall. And why is supposed to come at 6 o'clock, and he does that. And then Jen, Caitlin, and Jude realize like they've been wasting time in this game that they haven't even started. So Jen and Caitlin, come up with a lie that like, oh, he was supposed to come at 6:30. So anyway, Wyatt leaves off, so the Caitlin, Jen, and Jude can go and do their jobs. I find this bit kind of funny though. As soon as everyone realizes like they wasted their times, everyone just panics and starts running around the mall. You have Jonesy screaming, Jen screaming, they all run towards like the stores to get their things. It's just absolutely hilarious. And it's kind of like relatable because like as soon as you realize you messed up, like what can you do? I find it funny what Jan says, like when she's trying to get some cards and the store closes, and she says like, "Oh, just one card, any card." I know she's talking about like birthday cards but when I think of her saying like, "Oh, pick any card or any card," it makes me think of like the game like playing cards. I know it's like a dumb pun, but I still liked it. You have Jonesy running towards Grimy to get some grub, but obviously same thing as Jan's situation, the store closes in front of him. So obviously he can't get through, and you see Charmaine like communicating like, the time is up. We have Caitlin running towards a star. I don't know what she was supposed to get. I don't think they mentioned it. I think she was supposed to get the decorations. I mean, there was a moments in this episode where like she would hint like, "Oh, how would they decorate the birthday?" So obviously she is dealing with the decors. We have Nikki slamming the bars of our store because she was supposed to get a gift for Wyatt. This kind of feels in character for Nikki. She will be the type to, bash things. And I guess, that plan has failed. Just all the stars are closed and they couldn't get on everything. And they kind of feel defeated. Not one of the characters were able to get a thing for Wyatt. But if I give you a minute to talk about the thing that was the most necessary to least necessary things for them to get, I just want to remind you what the characters were supposed to get. So Jen was supposed to get a card, Caitlin was supposed to get the decorations, Jude was supposed to get the birthday cake, Nikki was supposed to get a gift, and Jonesy was supposed to get food. I think out of the five, um, like Jen and Kayla's job was the least necessary because you don't need cars or decorations for a birthday to be worth it. But then again, this show was around 2003, and birthdays are around that era. Like they heavily needed like decorations and birthday cards. I think they still do it in today's day, but I feel like most birthdays I see like decorations and cards aren't a huge thing nowadays. But even still, like I think if you had a birthday during like the early 2000s, not having a decorations or cards isn't a big deal. So really, I think Jude, Nikki, and Josie had the more necessary things they need. First of all, Nikki's job was important because obviously, like every birthday needs a gift. Like obviously, imagine having a birthday and you're not getting a gift. And obviously, like Jude and Jonesy's job is also important because they need the whole point of a birthday is to have food and any party anyway. Like, could you imagine coming to a party and there's no food or drinks? Also, you have to remember it's a birthday. So obviously, like in every birthday, you're going to have birthday cake. That's what makes it a staple. That's what defines birthdays. Like, if you don't have a birthday cake, it's definitely not a birthday. We all know this. Maybe birthdays are different, but like, that's what makes birthdays birthdays. So really, the people who had the most important job, like I said, were Jude, Jonesy, and Nikki. Maybe if I was me, like keep Jude and Nikki getting their thing, like the birthday cake and the gifts. But if I was me, like I would let Jan and Caitlin get the food as well, instead of getting the cards and decorations. But soon, all five of them feel defeated. But Jonesy doesn't give up and steps in. He officially takes this over. I mean, this kind of makes sense. He is a party guy, and I think someone like him would know how to, do a really good party. I mean, can we forget about the Lime episode? Like, he did a better job than Caitlin in the Lime episode. So Josie has an idea. I think Josie have noticed there was a party in one of the stores. I think it's Albatross and Finch. And I guess his light bulb goes off because he has an idea. He can sabotage that store and pass it off as White's birthday. The gang start being reluctant, but soon, they do this together. They plan to have a good birthday for Wyatt. But this bit is really cute and it gets me emotional when I see it. I'm literally emotional right now, but it's just really wholesome where all their friends come together and do this for Wyatt. Like, even though they have a lot of flaws with themselves, I can appreciate this. I also love the music that plays when they're doing this. This happens most of the time when a character gives a speech, whether it's Jude or Jonesy. When this song plays, it just feels really impactful. Anyway, the five of the friends head towards Albatross and Finch so they can view their party. But here's our problem though. The party seems to be a bridal shower. So I guess the gang are going to have to pass this off as a wife's birthday party and not to think it's a bridal shower. So they're gonna have to like sabotage the event. This leads to hilarious events. Like for example, at first, Kayla sees like a bouquet of flowers and she just tosses it aside and it just lands on someone's head. I thought it was really funny to see that. And in the similar vein, Jonesy finds a mood board of the honeymoon. So he throws that away to the same person that, Caitlin threw the bouquet. And it's still funny. So the sabotaging continues. We have Caitlin popping heart-shaped balloons. And then we have Jonesy taking away the bridal shower banner. Nikki pretends that she's tired and she starts stretching her arms and it knocks her over the pillars. Jude tries to take off the pink cloth from the guest table, but he tries to do this magic trick thing, where people like take it off while the guests are still on. While he does that, he knocks all the guests on the ground, and people kind of witness this happening. It was a hilarious scene, but kind of stupid, Jude. Next, Jen and Kaylin try to take care of Wyatt because it's 6:30 now. So they decide to blindfold him and let him enter Albatross and Finch. I think it's a smart decision that they blindfolded him. Otherwise, it would be really obvious. Also, I have no idea what Jen threw out. Like, what is that thing? So Josie takes off the decorations from the bouquet table, but when the greeter guard comes in being suspicious of what Josie has been doing, Josie makes up a good lie here. He just says that some jerk has forgotten to decorate the buffet table. I think that's just a pretty good lie. And Wyatt is astonished by the amount of party guests here and is kind of pleased. I do feel sorry for him because it feels like, these are genuine people who came to his party. And Jen makes a lie that, oh, he's a popular guy. And I think that would make sense because there was that episode where, he did play a guitar for everyone. Like, remember when he auditioned for that X Factor thing? So that would make sense. He is a popular guy. Anyway, Caitlin kind of gives Wyatt a distraction just in case, he gets suspicious. So he introduces Wyatt to a pretty girl. Like, even though, Wyatt's into Serena, I think this is a good move to, distract him. And this girl is Jill. She's the greeter goddess of Albatross and Finch. But unfortunately, Wyatt's suspicion grows because he notices some chocolate that look like bridesmaids. However, Jen tries to save this by eating all the chocolates. And Caitlin comments that Jen is chocoholic. I think it's really creative how much length they can go about distracting Wyatt. And then Josie does this funny bit where he blows up a balloon and he makes a like helium kind of voice. He sounds like Alvin and the Chipmunks. And then Jen does something weird. She sticks 3 chicken drumsticks in her mouth, as if it's like a neat party trick. So anyway, Wyatt goes off to, find some presents to unwrap. I love how the guys try so hard not to let Wyatt open the presents. I think it just builds tension and it's really fun. It just adds drama. And then Wyatt, opens the smaller present and it turns out to be like a pink top. Yeah, this doesn't seem to look good for the gang. But honestly, I think they could have, found an excuse for this. They could have just said, oh, Caitlin bought this present for Wyatt. Because, she is the one who is into, fashion and things. So you could just say, Caitlin just got carried away and bought her this gift. And soon then, Wyatt and Jill's suspicion grows even higher. So as Wyatt gets more suspicious, Caitlin starts chanting out cake just so she can save the situation. As soon as she starts chanting cake, the whole gang starts chanting cake, and then the whole guests in Albatross and Finch start chanting cake. However, there seems to be a problem. As soon as everyone starts chanting cake, they bring out the cake, and it turns out to be a wedding cake. Anyway, Josie starts running towards it and piles over the cake. It does ruin the cake, but that's a good save, Jonesy. And then we hit the peak. So the greeter girl, gets up on the stage and starts, telling the guest of honor to, talk on the mic and give a speech. And then everyone starts chanting speech. And Wyatt thinks it's him, so he gets on the stage and tells him like how how great everyone is. It's definitely hard to watch, but remembering it, it does make me laugh a lot. And as soon as Wyatt tells everyone that he's so great and like thank you for coming to my birthday, one of the person in the background yells out like, "Who is he?" And it's just so funny and like it's so ridiculous. And then the bride comes up and tells him like, "This is my bridal shower," and she starts crying. It's just so hilarious and awkward. It's hilarious because of the situation, but you're also feeling awkward for Wyatt because like it just you would have expected it. And could you imagine though, like you get on the stage and you just tell everyone in the bridal shower like, "Oh, thank you for coming for my birthday." If he wasn't like a 16-year-old or he was older, you'd think he was some random drunk guy. I shit you not, this is like really hilarious. Like, I've never laughed this much in a video before, and this kind of proves like how funny this is. Even though it's like tragic for Wyatt, but it's just so funny. So anyway, the gang get busted, and Wyatt looks at them, and they're all kind of like feeling awkward. And obviously, Wyatt's not happy about this. He's all shocked and everything. This is so embarrassing for Wyatt, but it's also pretty like awkward for the gang because their plan has been found out. So as soon as that happens, they just jolt off because like the embarrassment is so big. And he's not happy with them. Anyway, Wyatt does get mad, but he does get over it. I mean, I don't care about this bit, it's kind of whatever. Anyway, Jude brings back his hat to Wyatt, and he says like, "Oh, as stupid as this gift is, he's gonna wear it." And he's saying like, "Oh, he feels bad for his parents for being too hard on them." And I don't get this bit. I feel like Wyatt is backtracking here. Like, if you have a stance on something, just stand on it. Like, if you think your parents gave you bad birthdays, just say it. Anyway, Josie brings out the flattened cake from Albatross and Finch for, making it as a birthday cake. I mean, it's a sweet moment and it looks really tasty. But how did Albatross and Finch just let him get away with it and take the cake? I would assume like the snobbish people from Albatross and Finch would not be generous enough to do that. Especially when they just ruined the girl's bridal shower. And it feels like, they're somehow getting rewarded for something. Because, the gang basically ruined someone's bridal shower. And, they're not getting consequences from it. They're just getting rewarded from doing that. And that's kind of a gripe I have with this episode, just a little bit. Like I think if you're the audience watching this, you would think what they did in this episode was okay, which I don't mind. I think the events that happened in this episode was really funny, but I feel like they don't deserve the cake that was given to them. Anyway, at Grimy, Jude is still playing Simi Mall, which he really is getting sucked into. Jan, Caitlin, and Wyatt, try to get the computer off him because he's been glued to the computer so much. I kind of did not like that scene though. Thing is, it's like really none of the business. If Jude wants to play Simi Mall, he can play it. Also, why is Jude in the mall anyway? Why can't he just play the game at home? I know, like, this show is like you always have to be in the mall. At this point, like, he's not even working right now. I would just, let Jude just take a break and, do his game at home. Like a normal person would play this game. Anyway, the episode concludes with Jonesy and Nikki talking. And Jonesy wants a final answer for Nikki. Why isn't Nikki not dating Jonesy? And Nikki just finally realizes what her answer is. She doesn't want to screw this up. Not the relationship between Nikki and Jonesy. She doesn't want to screw up the gang up. Like, all six of the group, like if Jonesy and Nikki did break up, the whole other members of the group will have to like pick sides. This is the fear that the gang had, like in the episode where like Jonesy was employee of Khaki Barn. Like remember that episode? Like that's where we first got the hint of like Nikki and Jonesy, started dating each other. Um, and I think that was an interesting episode. I think it's that episode where like Jude would rub like this ointment cream all over him, and he starts falling over. And like Jen, Caitlin, and Wyatt start stalking Nikki and Jonesy, trying for that not to happen. And they said it there as well. Like that's kind of their fear. Like if Jonesy and Nikki did eventually get together, they will eventually gonna have to break up. Anyway, that seems to be it for my review for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Anyway, time to state my favorite and my least favorite part about this episode. I think my favorite moment about this episode is the amount of comedy. Like, I laughed so much in this episode. The quality of this episode is really good. Now it's time to state my least favorite aspect about this episode. I think this episode is really good, but like I said from the very start, the episode as a whole I find conceptually flawed. Again, I said it in the beginning, like as an episode alone, I don't think it should exist. That being like a birthday episode, and it doesn't fit for 16. Anyway, that's my summary. If you like this video, make sure to like, share, subscribe, and have a lovely day.